Hi all, I hope you're doing well and welcome to this Cine Circle webinar where we'll be discussing one of the recent successful Kickstarter campaigns and analyzing general film campaigns and also teaching you how you can fund your own film through crowdfunding. And if you'd like to find out a little bit more about crowdfunding in general, as well as film marketing, distribution, and funding, feel free to subscribe to this channel. So today we're going to be discussing a Kickstarter campaign called Assassin with Son, which is actually still running. They still have 12 hours to go, but they are doing very well, which is great to see. So we're going to basically break down this entire campaign, how they've become successful. So they raised about $30,000, which is about a little over £23,000. Had a great campaign, had nearly 300 backers. And the interesting thing over here in this campaign, well, there's quite a few interesting things that we're going to point out. And we're going to break down this campaign page. We're going to break down what kind of rewards they used, how they put together their entire campaign page, as well as all the marketing that can be done. And just to clarify, I'm not doing this webinar with them. They're not, I didn't actually interview them. What I'm doing is I'm sort of analyzing this campaign with everything that you can find online and teaching you how you can do the same. So if you find your own campaign, a campaign that you would like to analyze, for example, you would be doing, say, a horror feature film, and you find a great horror feature film that raised 100K, this webinar will sort of teach you how you can take that campaign and how you can analyze why they were successful. So let's get started with the campaign page and break that down. I'm not going to play the video over here because it sometimes causes some issues, but they had a video that's 4 minutes long, which is a little bit too long, I'd say, but it's a pretty cool video. It has the main creator and his son, and they're actually making the film together. So let's go down over here to the page description. Now, there's a couple of things that you should do in the page description in order to have a higher chance of success. And the main thing is to be quite visual. You want to really show people what your film is going to look like, what it's going to feel like, rather than just writing it. So actually what they're doing over here with a bunch of plain text at the very top is something that you want to avoid. You want to have a great image, a great concept art, a great, something really, really visual at the very top over here. And actually the very top is an update for a stretch goal, which is sometimes excusable. But as you go down, I really like this main piece of concept art that they have, which is, showing essentially it's a black samurai assassin with his son, and that's what the film is about. I think it's a really, really cool piece of concept art over here. Now, everyone knows that also on Kickstarter campaign pages, you have this meet the team section. And what I normally suggest is to have that, again, be very, very visual, have the picture of the person and to the side of them have some of their credits, make this, this really visual meet the team card. Over here, they go for a very text heavy, this is just a list of the people who are taking part, which is, again, really not ideal. So I would definitely suggest making this section a lot more visual. But what's really, really cool and very visual is some images over here which show exactly how this is actually a stop motion animation film. So it shows really, really cool with these photos how they do this stop motion animation film. And I think it portrays that really, really nicely, which is probably part of the reason why it was successful. Like when I saw the very top of this page, I thought, oh man, this is really not that great. But when I scrolled down and I saw these images and, this kind of digital character renders showing, them kind of doing like the stop motion and so on, it's really, really great. This is a really great kind of piece of like concept art, basically, that they've put together as well, which is Really, really good. Again, you have like this image over here, very kind of stylized of this is actually the project creator and his son. So this is again really, really kind of great. These kinds of visuals are what makes it, really, really good to kind of look at. It also shows you very clearly, and I would definitely recommend having this budget breakdown, showing people. A lot of people don't understand where money goes to when you are making a film. They don't understand why you need 20, 30, 40,000 pounds to make sometimes a short film. They just don't understand. So it's really, really good to have quite a detailed budget breakdown. You don't need to go into huge detail. They actually probably went into more detail than I would recommend over here, but it's really great to have this chart. And then all the rewards, there's this section, at the bottom, which again is very visual, showing you we have some really great rewards you can check out. And spoiler alert, one of them is a great T-shirt with, the concept art. So this is another great thing to put down at the bottom. So overall, the description over here, there's some great, pieces of, like visual images and great pieces of concept art, which are great. But overall, I would have liked it to be more visual. I always recommend as well turning your titles. So for example, here, Assassin with Son, or, here to have a meet the team title before you introduce the team. I would recommend to have that as image banners. So, create an image banner, whether it's in PowerPoint or Canva or whatever it might be, and upload the image here, with a really great image saying meet the team. That's, in the font of, the feel of your film. So I would have liked this to be a lot more visual, but I think what's really, and less just plain text. But what's really, really great over here is, seeing some of the images and concept art, which is really great. So the other thing is the actual rewards. So let's take a look a little bit into the rewards. Now you can pledge without a reward. This is always an option up here. They start off with $1, which is a thank you credit at the end of the film. Personally, I definitely wouldn't recommend adding a $1 pledge, because if you add it, people, you might ask some friends, family and friends to back your film. They won't want to back very much. If they see the $1, they will back the $1. But I can guarantee you that every single one of these 16 backers who pledged just $1, if that $1 reward wasn't there and it started off with $10, I guarantee you every single one of them would have gone for $10 and wouldn't have backed less. So I always recommend starting off with $10 or £10 as the minimum sort of reward. That doesn't mean that people can't give $1 or $5, but it just means you get the first reward at the $10 mark. So I then also really like to look at, first of all, going through the rewards. You have the digital download of the soundtrack, very kind of standard reward, early access link to the film. If you, for $50, you get stickers and a T-shirt. And you can see that actually over here, the $50 reward had 65 backers. $25 reward had 68 backers. I normally see the $25 reward actually get more backers than the $50 reward. It tends to be a much more popular reward, which sort of shows that actually maybe they're really onto something with this $50 reward. And that's probably mainly the T-shirt. People like to have, something sent to them. They like to have something physical. If they're being sent a T-shirt, if they're being sent a DVD, something physical, it just makes it seem so much more real, because a link to the film, let's face it, most people will get the link to the film probably for free as well anyways. But a t-shirt is something really, really cool, and you can pick your sizes and so on. So I definitely recommend throwing in some physical rewards after $50. You don't want any physical rewards for less than $50 because the cost of shipping and getting the reward will pretty much leave you very little margins for the actual profit that you'll be making the film with. So, when I see people who have a reward for $25 where they're selling a t-shirt that's probably going to cost them $7 to make and another $7 to ship somewhere, they're making very little money off that reward. But after $50 or even after $100, I would really strongly recommend having some physical and tangible rewards. Here you have the face mask behind the scenes, as well as the t-shirt, which is really good to see as well. You can see that the number of backers has gone down over here to 38 pounds. And now they have relatively few rewards for a company that's, for a film campaign that's, raised 30K. I would have normally assumed they would have had more rewards. But you can see over here, signed limited edition of the movie poster is 250. And then they go to their two rewards, which is the producer credit of the film and you'll get to appear as a puppet in the film. And here there was one backer. I believe you can still, so I can still get this actually, which is interesting. So it's not limited to just one. Actually, more people can get it, but only one did. But what's great is they got 10 people to pledge $500 to get the producer credit, which is actually quite difficult to get that many people to pledge $500 to get the producer credit. And I really want to kind of analyze how they did that. And perhaps if there is any strategies there that you guys can use for your own campaigns. So this is a little bit about the rewards. And I'm going to be perfectly honest. Again, with the rewards, I'm sort of surprised they made it to the 30K because there isn't anything like incredible over here. There isn't anything that stands out. And that means that their marketing must have been better. Their outreach must have been better. And we're going to analyze it in a moment, what we can see from their kind of social media outreach, from their marketing, and how they brought these backers in. But before we do that, I also want to just show you guys a campaign. It's a campaign that was launched last year that I was coaching on actually, called Night Riders, where they raised a little over £16,000. And there was one thing that this campaign did absolutely incredible, and that was the rewards. So I definitely recommend checking out this campaign because the rewards is why they got funded. This was very little money was coming from family and friends. The marketing, it wasn't like they had some incredible social media reach or anything like that, but they had rewards that people wanted. So for example, and they had some really nice spins on the rewards. So for example, everyone knows about the reward, which is £10 for a social media shout out. But instead of that, they said £10, we will repost any link for a showreel or trailer for a film or business promotion or even a family celebration on Facebook and Twitter. So, suddenly it makes it just a little bit more enticing for all filmmakers. It's not just a social media shout out, but you can give a link to say, your website or, your IMDb or anything like that, and they will promote it. So, it's a nice little spin. Got 56 people to claim it. There's the behind the scenes video, but then they had, again, like for example, singing lessons for £25. There was this lucky dip, which I thought was really, really interesting, which is, a potluck prize. Basically, you don't know which one you're going to get, but it's going to be, some nice things like candles, vouchers, etc. There's this added excitement of, I have no idea what I'm going to get. So it's almost you're playing on the sort of idea of curiosity more than, oh, I want to buy this. I'm just so curious what it will be that I will pay £30 to find out, which also worked really well. They had all these practical, pamper you hamper. There was this history podcast, half a day on set. And then they had all these great rewards for filmmakers. There was headshots in Nottingham, headshots in, Burnley. There was a showreel scene. You could be an extra, in the film where, you're actually a villager captured by pirates. Luxury food hamper. There was this another extra, more extras, that some people got. Showreel in Southeast London. Pirate extra, production assistant, associate producer, and then there were all these sold out ones, which is, in-depth reading, fund your short film, which was, a consultation with someone on how to fund a film. There was life coaching, crowdfunding lessons, headshots in London, more show reels. The show reels did incredibly well. I actually donated 2 CineCircle annual passes. So I would strongly check out this campaign, Night Riders, because honestly, it will give you a lot of inspiration on really, really practical rewards that you can use, so that you're not just relying on family and friends, but you can actually find, filmmakers who will be interested in purchasing these rewards, even if they're not necessarily people who would support your film. So definitely check out this campaign. But back to the main campaign that we are discussing. So the next thing that I like to do after I've taken a look at, is there anything incredible regarding rewards? Is there, something incredible regarding the page, or something that, really, really stands out? Here, I don't think the, page or rewards are so amazing that they would get you $30,000. It is a marked as projects that we love on Kickstarter, which means they got this little Kickstarter tick, which probably means that it was doing quite well in the Kickstarter algorithm. But still, it's not enough. They must have had some sort of marketing, and I want to find out what that is. So let me teach you how you guys can do that. The first thing I like to do is go on a website called KickTrack, KickTrack.com. And if you go on KickTrack and in the project, you literally type in the name of your project, or even the name of the website, the link, the URL link, you will get to find out a lot more things about this campaign. The main one is actually the chart of how much the project got funded at what point during the duration of the campaign. So this is really, really interesting. Another place where you can find this, and here you can also see the news, which is basically what the person, what you see over here, the latest news, is the updates over here. So the updates that you see on the Kickstarter page are what comes up over here. But there is actually an even better website, which is BackerKit. So I definitely recommend checking out BackerKit and typing in the URL of the campaign that you are planning on analyzing. And what it shows you is, again, this chart of how much was funded each day. So we can see on the first day they raised a little over $4,000, then another 2,000, and so on. And then you can also see how many, so this is the number, the daily number funded, and then the daily backers that there was to create that funding. Because there is one thing that they had a pretty strong first day, which is $5,000. They had another pretty strong day on day 3, which is, they raised another 4,000. That's not uncommon. The first 3 or 4 days are usually very strong days. It's also interesting, the 1st of June, I believe, was a Tuesday, and I can just double check that. But now the great thing is that's a really good day to actually launch your crowdfunding campaign. It is a Tuesday indeed. You always want to launch your crowdfunding campaign on a Tuesday, because weekends tend to do very, very badly for crowdfunding. That's because people are out more, they're not in front of their computers, they're not checking their emails. So it's a lot harder to get your message across and get people to click on your link. So you normally want to launch on a Tuesday because everyone hates Mondays. They have all these emails that have accumulated over the weekend. So you don't want to be in that rush. You want to launch on a Tuesday so that you have 4 full days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, until you hit your first weekend. So always launch on a Tuesday like they did. But what I found really, really interesting is that over here on the 7th of June, it's very unusual over here that they suddenly raised £10,000 or $10,000 in one day. So I want to sort of dig in a little bit as to, how they did that, what possibly happened on this Monday that could have made them $10,000. Because when you look at the daily number funded, they did really well in the first few days, but except for this one day where on the 7th of July they got $10,000, the rest of the campaign was not doing that great on a daily basis. So we really want to understand what happened here on this day. One thing that I'd mention, and something that you should all be aware of on Kickstarter, is that sometimes some campaigns look a lot more successful than they are. So what you want to look out for over here is this huge bump in, especially towards the end of the crowdfunding period, sort of towards the very end. If you suddenly see that, the campaign wasn't doing well, and in the last 2 days, suddenly they got all their funding from like one backer, it might be because someone on the team simply donated to that campaign just to get it over the line. So that obviously didn't happen over here, but what I was interested in is, right, they got 10,000 in this one day. Did that just come from one big backer? Because if it did, that means this entire campaign was only successful because, they had one really big donor that came in and donated. But I can see over here that they actually had 30 backers on that day. So, and from those 30 backers, they got £10,000. That means each backer still donated a really, really high amount, but it definitely wasn't just one big backer. So I want to understand what happened here on the 7th of June. So that's something to take a look at, that I will take a look at in a moment. Another thing is this average pledge size, which here is nearly $120. You can see it on the top right. Now, when I coach filmmakers who are doing crowdfunding campaigns, most of the time I teach that the average pledge is around $50 or £50. But that's usually true for campaigns who are trying to raise somewhere up to 15,000. So, 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, most likely your average pledge, if you're successful, is going to be $50 or £50. But if you're trying to raise 20,000, 30,000, usually your average pledge goes up to around $100 or £100. So that's something to keep in mind. And that's usually because in order to get, it seems to be a common trend now, in order to get funding for these bigger projects, 20,000, 30,000, you're going to need some bigger backers. It's simply like a truth that you will need some bigger backers to donate to your campaign. So it's definitely something to keep in mind. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the marketing then, sort of where did these backers come from? So what I like to do is, the first thing that I do is I take the URL of the Kickstarter campaign, and for example, I simply plug it into Facebook and I search on Facebook who posted, this URL on Facebook. And you can see that this is the project creator. This is his personal profile. We'll take a look at that. We can see, he posted quite a lot. And what's really interesting over here is he posted a lot, and every single one of his posts got an insane amount of engagement. So, 3rd of June, 38 comments, 122 likes, 64 likes, 8 comments. It's really, really, incredible. And I'm looking over here at June 7th. So on June 7th, over the weekend, we hit our 50% funded mark. We are halfway there, and we still have the entire month of June left to reach our goal. Please support. And what's really, you can see over here that they actually got 50% funded, and it's on the Monday that they got another 10K. So perhaps it's that, that whole idea of, okay, if a campaign starts to look successful, more people tend to back it. And this is another common truth. It's a little bit like when you're on holiday and you go to, to the city center, and there is like this street filled with restaurants, right? And you're walking down, and it's one of those restaurants where, all the chefs are standing outside, trying to get people to go inside, and all the restaurants are empty. And there is this one restaurant that's buzzing and everyone is there. And you're thinking to yourself, well, I don't know what's wrong with all the other restaurants, but I need to go to the one where everyone else is, because obviously there's something wrong with all the other ones, and that one is where everyone is at. And the truth of the matter is, probably the first couple of people went into that one restaurant and everyone else just followed. And there's a very similar thing that happens with crowdfunding campaigns. If you're 5% funded, no one takes your campaign seriously. No one wants to support a campaign that looks like it's going to fail. Whereas once you get over 30% funded, that's usually the mark where people start to take you more seriously. No press or journalists are ever going to write about your campaign unless you're at least 30% funded. So you want to try to get to 30% funded within the first few days. And here, once you get to 50% funded, it's very, very, from there, it's a lot easier to get the rest of your backers. And that's possibly what happened over here. He mentioned he got 50% funded over the weekend. It's a Monday, over the weekend, probably, the amount of backers were slower again, because weekends tend to be bad for crowdfunding. And, he just mentioned this on, June 7th, on the Monday, we hit 50% of our mark, and that's probably when all of the associate producers started to come, started to back the campaign and get that associate producer credit. Because that associate producer credit that, those 10 people got for $500, it always looks so much more appealing when the campaign is close to getting funded. No one wants to get an associate producer credit on a campaign that's raised $1,000 out of 30,000. But here, he already had 15,000 raised out of the 30,000. A lot more people will get that associate producer credit, because everyone wants to have an IMDb producer credit on a really, really successful film and campaign. So, I definitely looked at that over here. Looking at his profile, you can see that he definitely, posted a lot, and here, he said, just got a call from ABC News about them doing a digital feature on us and the project, Best That Ever segment, dream your fucking dream. So, again, with the link, and look how much engagement he's getting on, on these posts. They're like, to get that much engagement in June 2021 is absolutely incredible, to be honest. To get 144 likes and 30 comments. So it seems like the main hub that he used for promoting this campaign on Facebook was his personal profile. So that's really, really interesting to see. But actually, another page that I found, which also promoted this campaign, was this Japanese Arts Network. Now, because this was a film about, a samurai, they probably tapped into this pre-existing fan base over here. So now this page only has, it has under 1,000 likes, which is, not bad, but nothing incredible. They definitely supported this film, and, and they promoted it. One thing that I want to see here is, did they run any paid advertising? So this is the only page, the only business page that I saw that's actually promoted this link. So there's this really cool new feature on Facebook, which is over here under page transparency, which is, if you just scroll down on the left-hand side, you will see page transparency. So you can click on that, and you can go to their ad library. And it will show you every single ad that this page has ever run. And it doesn't run any ads. And this is in the United Kingdom. So let's actually take a look at all countries. But still, it doesn't run any ads, which means they didn't do any paid advertising for this Kickstarter campaign. When you're running a film Kickstarter campaign, it's really, really difficult to run successful paid ads. which is, not surprising that they didn't do it. But, if you're ever interested, for example, in a page that seems to have really high engagement, or, even if you're interested in running any paid ads and you want to just look at, Nike or, any of the big brands, you can actually go to this, and every single page on Facebook now, including all the massive brands, have to show every single ad that they've ever run. So it's really, really interesting to check out. Cool. So let's move on from Facebook to, Instagram. So this is the project creator Musa's private Instagram. You can see he's, posting a lot about the campaign. It's all him and his son, which is great over here. He's showing, graphs of how much he funded so far, which is also a really, really great thing to do. He doesn't have a huge amount of engagement. He doesn't have a huge amount of followers. And there is actually one really, big thing that he messed up on his Instagram profile, which is if you click on that link, right, that link which is going to take you to that Kickstarter campaign, I was sort of surprised. What I assumed I would see over here is a tracking link. So you have this assassin with son, and after that, everything that comes after that is a tracking URL, so that you can see, right, where did this, Kickstarter sale come from? So I would have assumed I would see something like reference Instagram organic or Instagram Musa profile or something, because on Kickstarter you can create tracking links, which I really, really suggest that you guys use, so that you can track where are my backers coming from. You have a separate tracking link for your Facebook page, for your Facebook personal profile, for your Instagram profile, for Reddit, for Pinterest, for YouTube, any other social media platforms have separate links. If you ever have a journalist or a blogger write an article about you, give them a separate tracking link to see how much traffic did we get from that blog, how much, how many backers did we get from that blog. So I saw over here that there's this navigation search result project term assassin with son, which means he copied the link that you use if you go on Kickstarter and you search on Kickstarter assassin with son. This is the link that comes up. Now, please don't do this, because what happens is it's an invalid link, which means anyone who's clicking on that link from his Instagram profile is coming to this error page, essentially. So never use that link. Always use either your own tracking link or just the Kickstarter assassin with son. Everything up to this question mark before reference equals navigation. So this is kind of a big lesson for that. I can also see that there was another Instagram profile, which is, I think, by this sort of by a designer and a sort of concept artist, I believe, who has been, posting about Assassin with Son. And you can tell this person has a much bigger following. These are not fake followers, because they are getting quite a lot of likes, quite a lot of views. They have over 11,000 followers. Now, what that means is once you get over 10,000 followers, you can actually promote on your stories swipe ups. I don't know if they do it anywhere over here. Yeah, they do. So, you can essentially add a link to every single story that you post, which can lead people straight to your Kickstarter page. So you have a story and you say swipe up to go, check out the Kickstarter page. If you have under 10,000 followers on Instagram, you have to, say link in bio, and people have to go to your profile, to that link on your profile, and then go to the Kickstarter page. So it definitely helps massively if you have someone on your team who has over 10,000 followers, because then they can do these swipe up stories. Next, I checked out the Twitter profile. To be honest, there was nothing there that could have gotten a huge amount of backers. He has 285 followers. So I was still wondering a little bit, where are these backers coming from? So the next thing that I like to do is to just go to Google, type in the link, and see what comes up. So the first things that will come up will always be, the actual Kickstarter links. But once you get past that, you can find out, right, Facebook. There is a bunch of other, articles which you can find, that wrote, about this campaign and that used this link. So what I actually already opened a lot of them over here. So we'll take a look at some of the different articles, blogs, press, anything like that, to see could there still have been a, is that where the backers came from? So the first thing that I love to do when I analyze these kinds of blogs, because sometimes it's really hard to tell. I don't know what this article is. I don't know whether it's huge or tiny. They definitely have, an interview with him and they have the link to the Kickstarter page. But how much traffic does this get? So what I'd recommend is that you guys get this free basically Google Chrome extension called Similar Sites. So I can maybe type it in over here. So Similar Sites, which is basically you can get a Google extension, or you can type it in over here, but it's basically a site which shows you, for all big websites, how much traffic is this website getting, how many monthly visits, what category is it in, what are some of the similar websites to it. So this is called similarsites.com. So you can see Netflix has like 2 billion monthly visits, and it's the category rank, it's number 2 in TV and streaming. So you can get this, basically extension, which helps you take a look at this. So monthly visits, 480,000, that's actually quite a lot. It's, ranked 27,000, but, getting that many visits, every single month is quite a lot. So this is, quite a serious, place. And this is actually an article that was written on May 24th. It was published, which is a few days before the campaign launched. Now, I wouldn't recommend having an article written and published before you launch your campaign. Always do it after your launch, because here there's so many people who probably read that on the 24th of May, went to, to check out the campaign page, which is, probably has a link somewhere here at the very bottom, and the campaign isn't live yet. They can't support it yet. So always wait with all your press, all your PR, ideally not even on the first day, but once you get 30% funded. Once you get 30% funded, that's when you give the go-ahead basically to all the journalists and all the bloggers. Right, this is the point where I want you to write about my campaign. And this is, or you can already have the article written and so on, but that's the point where you want to publish it. There was another blackmoviestar.com. So let's take a look at this one. Now, this will happen over here sometimes, where it will show you, we're sorry, but there isn't sufficient data. This basically means that it's a pretty small website. It has probably under a couple thousand monthly visits. So it definitely didn't get a huge amount of traction. But it's interesting, it was on June 15th. Keep that date in mind. The next one is Westworld. So Westworld gets 2 million monthly visits, which is just quite a lot, actually. So this is a pretty big publication. And again, 15th of June is when this happened. So when the article was published at 8 a.m. And it had a link, over here, you can click on this hyperlink and it will take you to the Kickstarter page. So that's really interesting. Next one, Geek Alabama. This one was on the 25th of June. Let's take a look over here. No sufficient data. What about this one? Again, no sufficient data. I'm not too sure what this was. So these were the main ones. So there were a couple big ones on the 15th of June. So what I then do is I go back to BackerKit and I check it out and I think to myself, okay, on the 15th of June, which is over here. Right, they didn't raise a huge amount, but it does stick out, you know, a little bit in comparison to a few days before and a few days after, or all days after. On the 15th of June, it does seem like they got some backers. And they actually got, you know, a significant amount here. You know, they got 10 different backers. I would presume that all 10 of those backers, who on average backed, you know, about $80 to get to this $895, I would assume that, you know, all of those came from probably from that Westworld article, which had, you know, the 2 million viewers, monthly viewers. So this is essentially the way that I analyze the marketing. You know, you do a lot of kind of stalking. You see, right, what journalists wrote about them, what bloggers wrote about them, where could the backers have come from? Nothing in the articles, you know, none of the articles were published on the 7th of June. You know, there was nothing huge that seems to have happened there. So I'm still a little bit, you know, baffled by this date over here, what exactly happened and how he got those backers. But I'm going to come to the conclusion now, the final conclusion of what this campaign really did very well, it seems, and how they got to 30K funded. To recap on that, the main thing that this campaign seems to have done in terms of promotion, they got into some big, you know, journalists, you know, they got some big articles written about them, some bloggers. They were doing quite a lot of, you know, social media, organic marketing, but none of that was particularly attributed to any spikes in the number of backings. So I don't think that was the reason why they were successful. It really seemed like the main reason why they were successful was basically the promotion that Musa, I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, did through his own personal Facebook profile. And, you know, that got huge amounts of engagement. That closely correlated with the amount of backers that he was receiving, which means that actually this $30,000 mainly came from people that were on his personal Facebook profile who wanted to support his film. And I think the reason, you know, there wasn't a huge amount of, you know, really great rewards that everyone would really want, which means that he must have simply had a project that he was so passionate about. He was making it with his son, and, you know, he was so passionate about the project. He also, through this project, wanted to, you know, sort of learn more about fatherhood. He wanted to, you know, teach his son a little bit about, you know, sort of this entire filmmaking process and so on. And I think really he basically created a project where he had, you know, such a support from everyone that he knew, because he was making a project that everyone knew he was so passionate about and that he really, really cared about. And I think that really resonated with his entire Facebook kind of audience, who then all supported his film. And that honestly seems to be the biggest reason why this, you know, this campaign was a success, and why he raised $30,000, which right now is quite difficult to do. So that's really my conclusion on that. If you guys have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you guys have. But until then, I also just want to mention, you know, another thing that's really, really important on Kickstarter especially is leaving a lot of updates and having a lot of comments. So this area over here where, you know, you have the updates, he left 4 updates. I recommend leaving updates every other day during your 30-day campaign. I'd also recommend in the comments, get as many comments as possible from all of your backers and reply to every single comment. So I'd really recommend that, you know, even if, you know, for example, you have 20, 30 friends who all say, look, I have absolutely no money, I can't support your campaign. Ask them, support the campaign $1 and just write a comment. That by itself will help with the algorithm and will help you rank higher. It will help you get more eyeballs on your campaign. So once again, feel free to post any questions in the comments about this, but I hope that this was, you know, a useful live stream for you guys in learning how you can analyze, you know, crowdfunding campaigns that are similar to yours. I honestly, I'd really recommend you doing this before you launch your own crowdfunding campaigns. If you're launching a horror feature film, just go on Kickstarter. Kickstarter has some really, really great tools where you can click discover. You can, go to specifically film and video. You can take a look at specifically horror projects, and you can really, really filter in on, these projects. Say you're looking for a project that raised 100% of your goal, and that the goal was between, say, $10,000 or $100,000, and you want to, filter it by the newest project, and it will show you all the horror feature films, or the whole horror films that have been created, and you can see which ones raised how much. And that will, just click on a bunch of these links, take a look at some of the campaigns, take a look at BackerKit to make sure that, that they got a decent amount of backers and there isn't anything weird going on, like all of their backers came in the last few days. And just analyze all of these campaigns, figure out what did they do right. All of these horror campaigns, if you're doing a horror film, all of these horror films, if someone wrote an article about them, they'll probably be interested in also writing an article about you. So reach out to all those journalists, reach out to all those bloggers, and that way, you will get a lot more reach, and it will be, the easiest way of gathering more PR. So again, I hope that this was useful for you guys. If you'd like to get more videos like this on crowdfunding, we also run a lot of videos on just general film marketing, distribution. Feel free to subscribe to this channel. We do post, at least one live stream a week and some other content as well. So I hope that this was useful, guys. And yeah, I hope to see you guys at the next live stream. So take care.